I was just a new grad nurse, barely a year into my career, working the night shift on a busy surgical floor. It was one of those nights where everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Call bells were ringing off the hook, post-op patients were in pain, and we were short-staffed. It was pure chaos. Around 3 a.m., one of my patients, a sweet elderly man who'd just had major abdominal surgery, started to decline. His blood pressure was dropping, his heart rate was soaring, and he was becoming less and less responsive. I knew in my gut this was bad. This was sepsis. I immediately paged the on-call surgical resident. When he finally called back, I quickly explained the situation, rattling off the vital signs and my assessment. I told him I suspected sepsis and needed orders for blood cultures, lactate, and a fluid bolus, stat. His response? A tired, dismissive sigh. He told me it was probably just post-op pain and to give the patient more morphine. Giving a powerful sedative to a patient with dangerously low blood pressure is a recipe for disaster. I tried to explain this, but he cut me off. He said he was busy, that I was overreacting, and to just give the morphine. Then he hung up. I was stunned. Every alarm bell in my head was screaming. My training, my intuition, everything was telling me that following his order could have devastating consequences for my patient. I stood there for a second, my heart pounding. I was just a new nurse. He was the doctor, the resident. Who was I to question him? My hands were shaking, but then I looked at my patient, so vulnerable in that bed, trusting me to care for him. And I knew I couldn't just stand by and let something terrible happen. I couldn't live with myself if I did. So I took a deep breath and made a decision. I was not going to give that morphine. Instead, I initiated our hospital's rapid response protocol. This is basically like calling a code, but for a patient who is circling the drain but hasn't arrested yet. It brings a whole team of experts, an ICU nurse, a respiratory therapist, and an intensivist, a critical care doctor, right to the bedside. It was a bold move. Escalating things this way, going over the resident's head, could get me in a lot of trouble. People would say I was dramatic, that I didn't respect the chain of command. I knew the resident would be furious. Within minutes, the rapid response team swarmed the room. I gave them a quick, clear report of everything that had happened. The ICU doctor took one look at the patient and the monitors and immediately confirmed my fears. "This is septic shock," he said, turning to the team. "Let's move." The team worked like a well-oiled machine, starting IVS, drawing labs, hanging antibiotics, and preparing the patient for an immediate transfer to the intensive care unit. It was incredible to watch. They were doing everything I had begged the resident to do 30 minutes earlier. Just as they were getting ready to roll the patient out, the surgical resident finally showed up. He walked in, saw the chaos, and his face went white. He looked from the patient to me, his eyes wide with a mix of anger and shock. The ICU doctor looked at him and said calmly, "Your patient is in septic shock. Good thing your nurse here knew what she was doing and called us. You should listen to her more often." The resident didn't say a word. He just stood there, completely silenced. He never expected a brand new nurse to push back, to challenge his authority. But in that moment, none of that mattered. My patient was getting the care he desperately needed. The patient ended up spending a few weeks in the ICU, but he pulled through. He made a full recovery. A few months later, he came back to my floor to thank me. He brought me a card, and with tears in his eyes, he told me that his family, his kids, his grandkids were all so grateful. That's when it really hit me. That night, I wasn't just a new grad, I was his advocate. I learned that being a nurse isn't just about following orders. It's about critical thinking, it's about courage, and most importantly, it's about fighting for your patients, no matter what. That resident, I never had a problem with him again. In fact, from that day on, whenever I called him, he listened. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more.